Fallout 76 6 years later. Wait, no, that's not right.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man.
Do you feel old yet? Because I certainly do. So Fallout 76 might have had one of the worst launches in gaming history, but somehow it just didn't die. So instead, over the years, it's been slowly rebuilt, update by update, into something that people actually enjoy playing and has a pretty active and healthy player base. So what exactly happened? And how did Fallout 76 go from a complete mess at launch to an actual genuinely good game? So we'll cover all the updates in this video. Drop a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new here, and right into it. So part 1 was the disaster launch in 2018. So November 2018, the game launched and it was pretty rough, and that's putting it pretty nicely, to be honest, because it was not in a good state. It was just really not that great of a game. They marketed it as Fallout with friends. If you are a Fallout fan, obviously that sounds like the best thing you could even imagine, is playing in the apocalypse with your friends. Like, that just sounds so amazing. But when the game launched, there was no human NPCs. The world was completely empty because of that, and it was a very buggy experience from the get-go. And the PvP systems that they kind of advertised in the launch trailer just really didn't hit the way that you'd want. It just didn't seem right, it didn't play right, and it just wasn't really fun at all. So it didn't exactly feel like Fallout. It felt like an experiment or a test that just wasn't really ready to be launched. And at that point, first impressions are everything, so most people kind of just wrote it off completely. So part 2, they updated in 2019, early 2019, and they kind of found a good direction to take the game in. So Bethesda, obviously, they didn't want to give up hope on Fallout 76. In early 2019, we got the Wild Appalachia update, so that added things like backpacks, it added new quests, and much more much needed content as well. And following that, we had the Nuclear Winter update, which was like a Battle Royale mode. I don't think I actually ever played this one, strangely, but yeah, that was a pretty significant update, so it was kind of unexpected. We didn't actually expect to get something like that, and it did actually bring a lot of players back for a short time, but the core game hadn't really been fixed or updated much apart from this update at that point, so it wasn't hugely attractive to a lot of people to come back at this point. Everything kind of turned tail in 2020, so that's when they released the Wastelanders update. So this was the biggest update, and it really brought a lot of people back, me included, and this is where I spent most of my time actually playing the game. So the Wastelanders update, this was the one that the game desperately needed, because the way it launched with the environmental storytelling and everything being told through holotapes, and they expected players to be the NPCs, they clearly realised that that didn't work. So for the first time in this update, they added proper human NPCs. There was actual dialogue with actual choices you could make. There was factions in the world that you could get involved with. There was an actual proper story implemented at this point as well. And basically at that point, it suddenly actually felt like Fallout again, which was absolutely fantastic. So this Wastelanders update, it wasn't just an update, it was basically a complete game overhaul, and it was absolutely fantastic. And this was the one that basically turned it right around, and loads of people jumped back in at this point. So that was in 2020. 2021, they expanded on this, so after the Wastelanders, they improved on a lot of the core system. They introduced the One Wasteland update, which introduced level scaling, which made co-op experiences a lot smoother, so you could more effectively play with friends that were different levels from you. And then they added the Brotherhood of Steel storyline, Steel Dawn and Steel Rain afterwards, and that added more structure and narrative to the story that was already implemented from the Wasteland update. And at this point, Fallout 76 wasn't just surviving, it was actually stabilising and becoming something that people jumped into frequently and really enjoyed it. And part of the foundational fixes was the highly requested loadouts and special rebalance. So this was a complete system overhaul of the way the perk cards work in the game, which was absolutely massive because it improved on how you use them. It wasn't just a upgrade to the basic system, so you could now swap builds instantly at punch card machines. So you could have like a build for melee, a build for stealth, something like that. So it really opened up freedom of play, and it wasn't as punishing to spec incorrectly. There was no more being locked into one setup, and there was much more room for experimentation. They moved the point balance around freely so you could reallocate easily, and they removed old painful level up respec grinds, because previously you had to level up to respec and now it was much more free and fluid. It was easier to swap cards in and out, and it encouraged build diversity, which was absolutely fantastic. So it removed the rigid and punishing nature of it, and it opened up the player experience just to let you try new things and have fun, and this was a highly requested feature and one that really made a lot of players happy. And then came 2022 with a lot of endgame updates, so the focus at this point shifted towards increasing replayability, because there wasn't much for endgame players that had really grinded and got their characters to a really powerful level. At this point they added a lot of new public events, and they added the expedition system with the pit. So you could go and visit the pit, which was obviously a fan favourite location from previous Fallout games. It would have been a different experience though, because it's far in the past from any of the other Fallout games. And they added more ways to grind gear and rewards. And this is where the game started to really feel like a proper live service game, with these kind of updates that people were really looking forward to. So they really dialed into this, and 2023 and 2024 was what is considered the real expansion era. So these updates really pushed things forward. Along with the expedition system, they added Atlantic City. So this brought new locations and missions that were outside Appalachia, so outside the main play space, and the big one was Skyline Valley. So for the first time, Fallout 76 actually expanded the map. I mean, the map was already absolutely enormous to begin with, but this one added a whole new region with new enemies, weather systems and exploration, so basically just an absolute boatload of new content for people to dive in and check out and get their hands on. And this was something that people were absolutely looking for and wanting for years at this point, so this one was an absolute massive update, probably similar to the Wastelanders in expectation. To top it all off, we have Fallout 76 today, so the gameplay that you've been seeing in the background here is gameplay of it today. This is my kind of first time. I'm recording this video after playing it for the first time in 5 years, which actually sounds crazy to say, because I really sunk a lot of time into this game, especially around the Wastelanders update. I played hundreds and hundreds of hours at that point, but then just kind of slipped away and hadn't touched it in 5 years. But jumping back into it, really goddamn enjoyed it. It's a lot different than it was back then, for sure. Loads of content, loads of stuff to do, so if it's something that you picked up initially and didn't really get into, now is definitely a time to jump back in and check this one out, I think. So at this point today, it's a much more stable game, it's packed with content, there's so much to do. It's still frequently updated, they're regularly updating this game, which is absolutely fantastic, and it's just a lot of fun. So definitely not a perfect game, it's hard to say that a game could be perfect, but it is an absolute massive leap and bound from where it was when it launched all the way back in 2018, which even saying that again just makes me feel so goddamn old. But yeah, so in conclusion, Fallout 76 didn't just get patched, it got completely rebuilt, and it's a completely different game from what it was when it launched. And it might be one of the best examples, along with the likes of No Man's Sky, that it just refused to die, and they kept working on it and pouring their heart and soul into it until they got something that really just worked and vibed with the community that they've formed here. So if you wrote it off way back in 2018 when it came out, or maybe you jumped in at a point where there wasn't a lot of content, now it's probably a good time to take another look here. So if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, it's probably a bit of a shorter one, but have you gone back into Fallout 76 recently? And do you actually think that it has redeemed itself? Do you agree with the kind of points that I've said here? So I'd love to hear from you down in the comments, really curious to hear what you think. So if you have enjoyed this video, hopefully you have, drop a like, I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.